incredible. And another media figure, Stephen A. Smith, who had the guts to actually apologize for his takes during that whole era. Absolutely amazing. This is good news for all of us. Anyway, we'll get to it. Thanks for finding me. The Wicked Radio live stream, replay on X, YouTube, and Facebook, and the audio podcast posted soon after the live stream on your favorite platforms. Let's get right to it. So, this is a couple of days ago, and the repercussions are coming in now. I love this just as a broadcaster because it was just glorious. Here's Aaron Rodgers, quarterback now, older quarterback. This is his final go-around. This is the last hurrah. He's playing for the Steelers right now. He goes on ESPN Pat McAfee's show. Now, Pat McAfee has a licensing agreement with ESPN, but it's on ESPN's airwaves. It's live. It's a live segment. They went to a training camp, to check in on the Steelers. So Aaron Rodgers there, and of course he's gonna do the interview with it. And Pat McAfee starts off with the standard questions at your last go around. How are things going? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about leaving life in the NFL? Oh no. Aaron Rodgers wasn't having that. He used this as an opportunity. And I'm glad he did. This isn't being petty. This isn't being rotten. No, this isn't just for ego. It's not. If it was, he would have ignored the entire issue. He got on this interview, and he told everybody what the truth was and said, I was right, wasn't I? Took shots at Fauci, took shots at ESPN. Again, I want to repeat this, on their network. This is the glorious thing about it. This is where the truth comes out. And he was not letting them get away with it for the years of abuse he took, which we'll get into here in a second. So I'm going to go through this for a second. It starts off, they're at the training camp live, and Pat McAfee's just trying to get into football questions. Nope, Aaron Rodgers wasn't having it, and good for him.
Is everything better? Is everything funner?
Here you go.
Is everything
Football
more
questions,
awesome?
right?
Like, how do you kind of view this year versus maybe the years of the past?
I'm going to plead the fifth.
Okay. Okay.
Gotta love that guy.
Okay.
Obviously referencing Fauci and pleading the fifth, right? Now, there's a really important part of this. This is, again, something we shouldn't just let go and go by the wayside and, forget about years later. No. This is unbelievably important how things have turned around. And this is probably the greatest news you'll ever hear. When you become a punchline like that, when Fauci has become a punchline, and over this past week, you've heard it a lot. I've heard NFL coaches say it. I've heard comedians say it. I've heard just, politicians or public figures say this in interviews. I'm going to plead the fifth. It's become a punchline referencing Fauci. This means he's lost. All of that whole era has lost in the court of public opinion. I don't know if he's ever going to pay a price for all the crap that he put us all through. And it turns out he was an absolute freaking monster. That's proven now. But when you become a punchline, that's when you've lost credibility. Of course, there's going to be still people out there with their little Fauci-ouchie dolls and all those freaks. No, but normal people and the majority of people know that this was garbage. That's proof right there. But then he goes on. Was that enough? Most people would have just said, yeah, I got my little licks in, whatever. Now I can talk football questions. Nope. Aaron Rodgers wasn't letting it go, and I congratulate him for this. This is heroic in my eyes to have the balls to do this. Again, keep this in mind, on ESPN's network. What he already says about them.
Absolute coward, Tony Fauci. Absolute coward.
Yeah.
Hey, it's back,
Are
baby.
you kidding me?
Yeah, 111
You got a
times.
pardon and you're in front and you pleaded over 100 times
Yeah.
at the White House? What are you scared of, Tony?
Yeah.
I thought you were the science.
Yeah.
I thought you were I am science, and you get up there and you can't answer a question?
Yeah.
What are we
it,
doing?
baby.
And how much time did the network spend at that? How much time did they spend on my responses every week, on my vaccination status?
This is where it gets really good. Now, here's the thing. Now, again, I got to say this just as somebody that's been in broadcasting almost my entire adult life. I just love this from a broadcasting standard. Can we just take a moment to appreciate that? The tension. Pat McAfee is not afraid of much. He'll ask anybody anything, and he's pushed back against ESPN, the network, plenty of times. One of those times for even having Aaron Rodgers as a paid guest. And they're all upset about that, apparently. That fight is still going on. But you can feel the tension, can't you? It's like, this is not where they thought this was going to go live on their air. You feel a little bit tense. There's a producer in their headset saying, all right, move on. Football questions, Pat, football questions. So that's just, I just enjoy that. But how about that, what he just said right there? How many times did your network criticize me or take shots at me for my vax stat? And they did. I mean, he was the punching bag for all this because he dared say he was immunized and he wouldn't go up. Remember all that? But anyway, he goes on, and somehow, some way, it gets even better from here for him to have the balls to do this.
Taylor and Travis's wedding.
Yeah!
Did they do even a minute? Did they do even a minute on Tony Fauci?
No, I don't think I've heard
Nah,
anything.
I bet they didn't.
But on that note,
And there was another scandal this offseason, too, involving a voter for MVP, for Coach of the Year. How much time did your network spend? Where's your cap? Did your network spend on
our
that?
network.
I wish I
How much time did you
Go back
spend?
to Fauci. I wish I
How much
could
time?
Fauci. This is awesome.
Okay.
Go back to Fauci?
Yeah.
Go back to the coward Tony Fauci and the science?
Hold on now.
Who's spending the entire time writing in his diary about how fun it is to be famous.
Wow.
You got to be kidding me.
Okay, so on that note,
What are you going to say about me now?
Debate him,
What are you going to say about me
no,
now?
I got no debate here. You had a 500.
No, seriously, what are they going to say about me now? Now you can't talk about the COVID stuff because obviously it was made, in a lab in China. That's like not even questionable anymore. Tony Fauci is an absolute criminal.
You got to just take a second and appreciate how far we've come, okay? Aaron Rodgers, football player on a sports show on their network, criticizing the network for. Remember, I always tell you, sports media is the worst media. That's where we saw the worst of the worst come out on that network. But for Aaron Rodgers to come out and talk about what we all know now about COVID coming from that lab, it wasn't that long ago, guys. You were chastised, you were ostracized, you were definitely censored. You were never allowed again to speak in public if you ever said that. Now look what's happening again. This goes back to I plead the fifth being a punchline. Lab leak theory is confirmed in the court of public opinion. Everybody knows. There was a long period of time where we never thought we'd get here, where the truth would be happening. I personally never thought we'd get here where a guy that was so heavily criticized by that network, would go on the network one day and shove it right back in their faces and take shots at Fauci at the same time. Fantastic. All right, so you may be asking, where he's just a crybaby. Why did Aaron Rodgers, how was he criticized? Across all media forms. And like I said, he wasn't the only one. There were other public figures who took a lot of criticism for this. Novak Djokovic, the tennis player. There were some golfers, Kyrie Irving, we'll get to here in a second. But let me just bring up for you, just as a reminder, what Aaron Rodgers went through, okay, in the criticism of the public eye. Terry Bradshaw said Aaron Rodgers specifically lied to everyone. And then the NFL Sunday Crew members, his co-hosts, Strahan and Howie Long and Jimmy Johnson, they were making fun of him, saying he was immunized because he couldn't say he was vaccinated because he didn't want to. Howard Stern said on his show that if there was any decency in this world, that's the quote, Aaron Rodgers should be thrown out of the NFL and banned. This wasn't that long ago. Jimmy Kimmel, one of my favorites, right? Called Rodgers a Karen for not getting vaccinated. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, great NBA player, said Rodgers directly and deliberately lied to fans. Think of how insane that entire era was, simply because he didn't believe in this vaccination, didn't believe it was going to do anything good for his body. In fact, it would just do damage. And that's the kind of criticism he took. But again, you got to celebrate how great of an era this is right now, where somebody like that can now take that and get your revenge and shove it right in their faces. How great is that? But I got to give credit to another media figure here. And this guy actually is employed by ESPN, Stephen A. Smith. I'm sure you've heard him. I mean, he's always yelling about a whole bunch of different things. Another player, Kyrie Irving, NBA player, faced an actual financial loss because of this, because of New York's. He was playing with the Knicks at the time. New York's insane COVID laws. If you're not vaccinated, you can't work, right? And again, he's a famous NBA player, and he lost some money. He's still a millionaire many times over, and worry about that. And there were everyday working people who couldn't work because they wouldn't get vaccinated if you happen to be unlucky enough to live in a blue state or a blue city. But I tell you what, this isn't the network standpoint, but this is Stephen A. Smith going on his show and apologizing directly to Kyrie Irving because Stephen A. Smith blasted him for it. But I give Stephen A. Smith the credit, too, and this is an amazing time where you have big media figures coming out and admitting they were wrong. Here's another one. Let's give Stephen A. Smith credit for now saying, and he did physically, he literally apologized to Kyrie Irving, but he went more than that, and he said, I think he's intimating here, he was right all along. Credit to him, too.
He refused the vaccine. New York City's mandate made him ineligible for home games, and he linked his stance to people losing jobs over vaccine mandates. In my opinion, particularly hindsight-wise, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish. It made him brave. for his willingness to stand up and say, nah, I'm not doing that.
How about that? And this is why I give Stephen A. Smith credit. He's got the cajones to stand up on his show and his public platform to say he was wrong too. There's not a lot of people like that. We're definitely not Fauci. Again, it's become a punchline. I plead the fifth. 111. How many times do you see 111, trending? When you've become a punchline, you have lost the perception and the credibility in the court of public opinion, and that's a great thing. But there's not a lot of people like Aaron Rodgers, Stephen A. Smith coming out there and telling the truth. But there's more and more, and I bet you there's more coming. That takes balls. And I know what you're thinking, and I know it's like, well, regular everyday people had to suffer this, and they don't get this chance to go on a network and tell the truth. No, I get it. But again, these are the people with the platform, and it's starting. And it's starting to realize, they're starting to realize that they have an opportunity to do this. And to either, in Aaron Rodgers' case, to get out there and get some revenge for everything that they said and did to him. And Stephen A. Smith, an opportunity to get on there and say he was wrong about his opinions on it. And he was misled too. Well, here's why it's important. The more this happens and more big media figures have the guts to stand up and say and stand up against this kind of stuff, the less of a chance we're going to live through this again. It's less of a chance now that in our lifetime they're going to try this again. Or they're going to try the lockdowns and the insane crap and a lunatic like Fauci saying, I am the science. Less of a chance of that. They'll try it again. Power, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Truer words have never been spoken. They'll try it probably in our kids' lifetime, but less of a chance in our lifetime. But if we don't forget that this kind of stuff is happening right now, that the truth is coming out right now, there's less of a chance this will ever, ever happen again. And I give them credit for that. I think it's fantastic. And there were others, And this is why it's important for public figures to come out and say that too. Novak Djokovic, he's been another one coming out saying he's a famous tennis player. He got banned from, I think it was the Australian Open, from playing that because he wouldn't say he was vaccinated. Might have been a European, might have been the French Open too. I'm not too sure, but he did it too. And that takes guts, but here's what else takes even more guts. Now he's coming out saying, I was right. I was right the entire time. It's really important that we don't let that go by the wayside. Really important. Because it's, and I'm telling you, if you have a chance to just take the time and go back, this should live forever. This is another reason why you should watch it. Go back and watch the Aaron Rodgers segment on the Pat McAfee Show on ESPN. Because that'll keep it in the algorithm forever. We shouldn't ever forget that. That should be the pinnacle point. That should be the inflection point where finally the truth was told and somebody got some revenge. And you're saying, oh, that's just rotten and petty. All right, I'll give you that. But that's what we need. Isn't it time for everybody that was faced with all of this insanity to be rotten and petty? We need more people like that to stand up. We absolutely do. So that this crap doesn't ever happen again. But watch, now that you're aware of it though, I'll leave you this one takeaway. Watch how many times you hear it in casual conversation now amongst your friends. You might overhear it at a bar, or definitely in sports media interviews and entertainment interviews or stand-up specials. How many people you hear use as a punchline, I plead the fifth. Fauci's become a punchline. This is the greatest victory of all because we're all looking back now and saying that guy was absolute clown. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you so much. Almost into the weekend. One more day to go. One more work day. Tomorrow, live again, 8 a.m. Eastern time for the live stream. And then the replay of Wicked Radio is always on X and YouTube and Facebook. Audio podcast, the complete show, is on your favorite podcast platforms. Posted soon after we get off the live stream. So that'll be in just a couple of minutes. Make it a wicked awesome Thursday. I plead the fifth. Talk to you tomorrow.